I'd like to welcome everyone to the Minnesota chapter of Webinar Content Marketing, a new approach to reach your customers. And we're very appreciative for Patty Swanson to join us today. Patty Swanson is a marketing and communications professional with over 25 years of proven success in achieving targeted business outcomes for B2B and B2C startups, not-for-profits, mid-sized businesses, as well as Fortune 100 companies. Now, before I turn it over to Patty to start, we have a few things we'd like to share with you about SCORE. SCORE is a nationwide not-for-profit organization that is an independent resource partner of the U.S. Small Business Administration. Now, we help America's small businesses for free, not-for-profit, confidential business monitoring, in-person, online, business and educational services. We have over 90 volunteers in Minnesota, which is Manatee and Sarasota counties, and that excludes Northport. We have over 50 years of experience in doing this, a broad range of mentor expertise among that to be able to help you specifically with your business. Our chapter was recently recognized as District Chapter of the Year. I also want to note that we're available 24/7 because we have such outstanding resources on our website, and you can go look those up. Podcasts, webinars, much more information out there available to you at any time. How can we help you? Well, there are many ways we can help you. Here are some. Let's say you're thinking about your dream business. You've been planning to do something for years. We can help you in those stages. Talk about how you might start a business, what it might take to do that, what business planning you may need. If you're in the startup phase, we know there can be many challenges there. And we can also help you in that, in growing your business, profit margins, reaching the right customer segments, as we'll talk about today, and or selling and closing your business. So many different ways we can help you as you navigate through your business cycle and plan. To request a mentor, please visit score.org/Minnesota. You can also see the profiles of our mentors there as well. Also, our workshop calendar and our recorded webinars. And of course, we need to thank our sponsors, without whom we wouldn't be here. You also notice among the list of our sponsors, we're thankful for all of them, many banks. And should you go into one of those banks, having been mentored or working with one of our mentors, you may expect you're going to receive a warm welcome, maybe warmer so than you would otherwise. So with that, I want to turn it over to Patty and start our session today.
So we are going to talk about content marketing today. And it doesn't matter if you're familiar with it or if you're not. I'm going to have a little bit of something for everyone today. We're going to go through what is content marketing, the benefits of it, and how you can use it to advance your business, what types of content we can create, and a few quick tips around each, as well as what makes for good and bad content. We've all experienced it out there on the internet, and where to start. How do we plan this out? How do we make it a part of our marketing program? And again, we're going to have some really great tools and tips for you that you can all use along the way. So let's get started. We all search online. We go there to find answers, to find solutions. We look for referrals. Content marketing is what provides us those answers. It's what we're looking for, and it provides it to us at the moment that we need it most. Lee Hoden said, content is the reason search began in the first place. So if you think about it, if we weren't providing those answers and solutions out there on the internet, why would we go there to even search and ask, for different solutions? It's an opportunity to put your expertise, your passion on display in the best way, in the way that you probably chose to go into business, to help your customers, to provide a solution. And that's what makes content marketing so powerful. It is truly just the creation of content, articles, videos, podcasts, imagery, and more, and sharing it with your customers to solve their problems. If you've been online, you've been a target of content marketing. restaurants near me, and you have open tables and serves you up the top 10, or Yelp. You look for a health symptom, and you have WebMD and Healthline serve you up different articles. That is content marketing. And it's why all of us use it to stay in front of our customers. It's an effective strategy for your business. And I will also put out there for your own personal brand. If you are an independent consultant, for instance, or you want to advance your opportunities as a speaker. So it's for your business or even your personal brand, product, service-based, B2B, B2C, and any of those combinations that cross those traditional segments. It's a great tool for all of that. I'm going to pause right here. One thing I want to mention that if you do have questions, please put them in the chat or in the QA, and we're going to field those all at the end. And I should have mentioned that right up front. Okay. So what are the benefits of content marketing? Why does every business virtually use content marketing? First and foremost, it keeps us top of mind, right? It keeps our brand in front of our customers. And that's a really important piece of what we're trying to do when we're building our business. It builds trust and authority. If done correctly, your content and you're sharing your expertise and you're providing creative solutions, your customers, your prospects are going to come to establish a relationship, continue to come back to you because they trust you. Really powerful. It fills the top of your sales funnel. But then it also gives you an opportunity to nurture those leads throughout the funnel. And we're going to talk quite a bit of how you can develop that content to support your sales funnel. And it's cost effective. You will see out there, if you ever look, some professionals will say it's free. I don't think content marketing is free because your expertise, your knowledge, your perspective is valuable and worthy. So it may not demand a huge cash outlay from that perspective, but if you're working on content marketing, it's taking you away from other opportunities. So it's not free, but it doesn't demand that cash outlay, which is why at times it really makes it a good go-to for small businesses, particularly as they're building their reputation. But I will tell you, you will learn that is valuable no matter where you are in the phase of your business. Let's talk about a couple examples. There is a hairstylist in Illinois. I had not heard of her. Her name is Teresa Van Dam, and she does these TikTok skits that basically explain how she deals with, funny skits about dealing with rude customers. A lot of people are going to her and going to her TikTok account basically for a laugh, some entertainment, right? Well, with that, those cute little skits that she's created that are kind of funny, she's created a channel with over 4 million followers. That's larger than some of the biggest brands out there. But guess what she's also done? She's put her talent on display. She now has a waiting list for new customers months long. A small hair stylist, small business out in Illinois. And she accomplished great things with, yes, those little skits are considered content marketing. Let's talk another one, big brand, Cleveland Clinic. Most of us pretty much are all familiar with Cleveland Clinic. They had a great blog that had about 250 views a month. They grew that to over 6 million views a month in only 5 years. I want you to hear that, in only 5 years. Because content marketing is not a sprint. It is a marathon. But if you're patient and consistent, it can come back with really significant rewards for you. All right, let's move on to what are the types of content. I tend to lump generically. You can go out there and Google, and there's going to be articles that say, 130 different types of content. Basically, there's written or on page, there's video, there's interactive, and there's image-based. And then there's all sorts of different categories or different types of content you can create underneath those. We're going to talk about all of that, but let's talk about by category at this point. So you have your blogs, your articles, your white papers, your case study, whatever that written on page content is. A couple things you always want to keep in mind. That includes press releases. There's so many. Make sure it's visually attractive. Keep it up to date. And I always suggest, if you can, when you're writing, try to write, and the language I use is evergreen. So if you can avoid dated content or specific seasonal content, that's going to make your life a little bit easier, because if you have to keep going back and updating it, it can be really tedious, and you can end up with what looks very old and dated content. There's times you need to have seasonal and timed content, but then you just want to make sure you keep it up to date. Use credible sources. Don't use, obscure links. People are leery of that, and you need to be cautious. Use really, big brand, big credible sources. Always include a call to action. It could be a call to action to read further, read a different article, view a different video, or to contact you at your business. But you never want to do this effort and not have a call to action. And then, of course, and we're going to talk about this in greater detail a little bit later, but proofread, make sure you edit. It reflects on your brand. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit here when we're talking about on-page content is around PDFs. There's a lot of websites and a lot of small businesses I visit and go out and see, and they have all this great content in PDFs. You have to remember that search engines can't scan those like they can your website, right? So if you have all this great content and it's only in a PDF, it's not going to help you, because a lot of what we're doing, we're going to talk quite a bit more about this. And you see at the bottom of the slide, optimize for SEO. That's organic rankings. And so when you're producing this content, it's helping the search engines find you and rank you and understand what your website is about. So if you have those keywords in there, and again, we're going to talk a little bit about this later on in the presentation. If they can't see it, then they can't find you. When someone goes and asks a question about whatever that topic is, I want to learn about SEO, they're not going to find you. So you have to make sure that if you have that great PDF content, put it on page and give them the option to download. And then there's a whole conversation around gated content. If you're not familiar with that language, that's where you put a form in front of it. So this is what you'll see a lot of times from white papers, and they'll say, you give your credentials. I'm going to caution small businesses around gated content. There is absolutely, and I encourage the use of it, but you have to know when and how to use gated content, because the user can get really frustrated because they know it's a sales. They know that they're going to get sold, right? So use your gated content when you get to that point, a white paper, at an appropriate time. And that means basically when you have established a reputation, when you know you have a topic that is going to resonate, you've already received some interest. And there's a whole bunch we can go into just about lead gen and a whole different webinar. But I just want to give some caution around that, because there is some opportunity there. So let's talk about video. Videos are obviously really powerful. 91% of all businesses out there are using video in their marketing. But you can create videos now just to see, right on your phones, right? You don't need to always have them professionally produced. But I will recommend, very similar to what I just talked about, you need to have titles, summaries, and descriptions. You don't want to just post that video, because again, the search engine can't scan that like they can on page content. So make sure you have a description. You tell the user what it's about. It's for the user, but it's as much for the search engines as it is for the user. I use the language, I use a description around content marketing. And even the SEO, it's an art and a science. And so you're trying to meld that art and science. The art is what you're creating, the content, the creative piece of it, and then that's your art. And then the science, that's the search engine. That's the algorithm you're trying to feed, and you're trying to feed it regularly, just like a child. Let's just keep it really well nourished, right? Then let's talk about some interactive. So that's the interactive is the content that I would consider podcasts. That is your webinars. That's your live FaceTime. Again, same thing. When you go to post that, make sure you have on page content to support that interactive element that you're going to post on your website. And then there's always your images, your press releases I put out there as well. That's your on page is another option. And then you have your images and your, let's say, infographics. Again, your search engines they can't scan that. So you have to put a title with it. You have to put a description with your images and with your infographics to make sure that those search engines can find it. And that's what we describe as optimized for SEO. There can be a whole nother webinar on SEO. But again, I'm going to talk a little bit further about optimizing your content as we go through this. All right, let's keep on moving. Let's keep this going fast. You guys are busy. So good and bad content. What does that look like? So your good content, we've all seen it. It provides a valuable answer. It helps your audience basically solve the problem that they're looking for. And it's an authentic offer of help. And I say authentic because you truly are there to help them. Content can be complicated. I'll believe that too a little bit later. It speaks directly to the target audience. And I recommend that you try to be as conversational as possible, but conversational is going to take a different tone depending on who your audience is. So for instance, I have one client that's an intellectual property law firm. We talk conversational to our clients who are corporate lawyers, corporate attorneys, very different than my other client that's a human service organization serving parents and families around autism services and therapies, foster care and adoption. Very, very different tone. You have just that caring. So think about who your audience is, because that conversational tone is going to sound different. And sometimes I think about, how do you speak to a friend and how would you speak during an interview? What are your word choices? Think about how you can have something that relates to your audience and make sure that you're really connecting with them on the right level. And sometimes it may take some testing. Good content establishes, and we've talked about this, that trust and builds a relationship. Many of us have sources, right, that we go to online. I have a couple, and it's going to segue right into the bad content. I follow Dr. Mark Hyman, for instance. I like what he puts out there around health and food and different, topics such as that. But at the same time, I was starting to look at Dr. Gundry, and he's another one who does the same. I ended up dropping Dr. Gundry, stayed with Dr. Hyman, continued to follow him for the exact reason as the number one concern for bad content. We've all seen it. He seemed too self-serving and promotional from my perspective. That's the number one thing you want to avoid when you're producing content, is to try to avoid being self-serving and promotional. And I say this with an understanding how difficult that can be. When you are passionate about a business, when you know how good you are, your product, your service, your staff, not being self-promotional is hard. And I say that out of complete understanding and having to walk as well. But if you think about it, let me try to help you flip that switch. A lot of us start with how long we've been in the industry. We're industry leaders. How long has the company's been in business? How great our products are, our services. What are everyone, how different you are from everyone. What's the best customer service? I have the best customer service. What you want to think about is that customers reading all these things about you. And even though you're talking about your great customer service and you're talking about how you're different from everyone else, that customer is still standing there going, What's in it for me? Why does that matter to me? And you really have to dig in deep because you think that that's serving them, but is it? You need to solve a problem. What does your product, your service solve? That's where you want to really start diving into it. So one of the things you can do is think about this is answer the most frequently asked questions. Take your product, and I'll use my client. What we did is we put in most frequently asked questions around autism. And I, right there, had more content that I could produce that was going to answer our parents and our families' questions that was going to last months. What are the symptoms of autism? How do I find therapies? What therapies are there? You just put in your product and ask that question in Google, and right there, it's going to serve you up content that you can use to solve your customers' problems. And you're going to be in a really good place. And use it through storytelling whenever possible. Okay. Another concern or failure for those producing bad content is they're writing or creating content for the sake of generating some type of content. They know about content, they know it's important, and consistency is truly important in content marketing. But to just generate content is not going to serve your audience well, and it could hurt you. So you want to make sure if you're going to take the time to do it, make sure it's valuable, make sure it's meaningful. And of course, the poorly written, the content that overstates facts, makes grandiose statements, and is not backed with results, or even attacks customers. Our audience today can see right through that. So you want to avoid all those mistakes. You really want to enter into content marketing truly to inform and educate and help your target audience. If you authentically come to the table with that purpose, you're going to be successful. So let's now talk about how do we get started? What's involved in a content marketing plan? I'm going to state some of the obvious during this part of the conversation. Some of this, particularly if you're, depending on what phase you're in your small business, you know these answers like the back of your hand. And it's very similar to most plans, right? You're going to want to know your goals, and you're going to want to know your audience. I'm going to spend a little bit more time in a couple of these spaces and kind of gloss over them because I know you're going to already know them. But let's take these step by step. So what are your goals? We've all heard about SMART goals. Same thing with your content marketing. Start with your SMART goals. You want to increase your website traffic by 15%. You want 10 new leads in a month, and you want to start generating that within 3 months. Put those SMART goals out there and think about what your purpose is there. What is your purpose that you're entering into content marketing? And help that guide you in those goals. And then, again, I'm going to state the obvious, know your audience, define your audience. Most of you have already been through a business plan. You've already done that. But let's take it a little bit further. Do you have more than one audience? Are they consumers or business professionals, B2C, B2B? What do you know about them? Think through as much detail as you can. Where are they located? What is their age range? What do they value? Where do they spend their time online? And that's a really important piece of information. If you happen to have it, if you know where they're spending their time, are they on Instagram? Are they on TikTok? Where are they spending their time? Or are they LinkedIn? So understanding those details is going to help you as we go into developing the content and promoting it, understanding that it's going to guide you and help you with your overall plan. So think through those details. Next, let's know our competition. I don't like to ever promote that you know too much about your competition or you spend too much hovering there, but it is valuable. It is worthy to understand. Do they have a blog? Are they using certain keywords that you're going to be using as well? Are they doing video? Are they doing written? What channels are they promoting and posting on? Do they have a newsletter, an email registration? and look at their online reviews. What are their call to actions? Do they have keywords linked on their site? Learn as much as you can. I often use competitor insights to even be my benchmark. What do I want to exceed? But then determine, are you going to align and do better than what they're doing? Or are you going to separate? Are you going to do something very different in your content? For instance, let's say they have a whole series on, let's go to the health and the symptoms, and they're providing solutions around how to solve actually, let me take that back. Let's do how to be more organized, how to manage my time. And they're doing a whole series on how to manage your time, what to do before work, what to do after work. Do you want to do something very different where you do a funny series of how you navigate interruptions through your day and all the funny things and all the crazy interruptions that we manage throughout our days, and kind of like, our hairstylists, make it fun, make it entertaining. And then what you should be doing with those interruptions versus what we sometimes naturally, how we respond to them, right? You have to decide how are you going to align or not with your competition, but at least understand it and know it, and make sure you know where you're going to fit in that queue. The next one, I think, is probably one of the most important questions you can ask when you're talking about content marketing. And that is, what problems are you solving? And I love this quote because it's so true. They don't care about your solution, they care about their problems. So you have to talk about their problems and how your solution solves their problems, right? This is, again, probably the most important question you can ask yourself when you dive into content marketing. So for instance, let's try to flip the switch. Instead of thinking about my business and what it does, like think about what we just talked about. You want to talk about those solutions. It's a subtle distinction. If someone asks me what I do, like most people, I respond, I'm in marketing communications, or I'm a marketing communications consultant. Better answer, I help businesses succeed. It's just a different way to approach it. So try to flip your switch. What are you doing? How are you solving a problem? And focus on that. It can be a great inspiration for your business, and it will fuel your content marketing. And like I said, Google is a great resource to figure out what some of those problems and some of those questions that people have about whatever your topic is, whatever your business is. So I talked about SEO and optimizing for SEO, but now let's go a little bit deeper. Yes. So you need to know what your keywords are. You need to know, because that's a part of what we're doing in content, is we want to be ranked organically. We want to be in that first position. And so here's what you're looking at is I Googled, what is content marketing? And you can see all sorts of things from Forbes, MailChimp, all sorts of brands put out content around there. Then you're also seeing, I did a keyword research around that and what that looks like. What do they provide you? It's important to understand, and it will show you some things that you may not have understood previously. Let me use my one client again. So I was doing an assessment for them, the Human Service Organization, and adoptions is one of their services. So I put in, they started searching, and we were struggling with their organic rankings. And so I put in adoption. What I found out is they're competing not for just adopting children, but the number one for me, what came up most was animal adoptions, dogs and cats. So by doing your keyword research, you're going to uncover things you may not have even thought of, that you need to think differently or phrase your language differently. I have another customer, and he just keeps, well, I think that sounds better. I think that would be easier for a customer to remember. Try not to do that. I had to pull him back on so many fronts because it's not how customers were actually searching for his business. It's not how they were going to find them. Keyword research can be hugely beneficial. And I put some free tools down here that you're going to receive when this deck gets sent out. But there's great opportunities for you to, you don't have to invest in it, but I would suggest invest in the steps to learn about it. So now let's really get into some meat about talking about what content do we create. Let's talk about first who's really on our website. 75% of your visitors are there to learn and are still in the discovery phase. 23% of your customers or your visitors are trying to decide if you're the right provider for them, the right offer. And I call it the evaluation phase. So you have your awareness, your evaluation, and 2%, only 2% are there to convert. So let's use our sales funnel to think through what content we should be generating and where we should put our priorities. So let's start at the awareness stage, right? The buyer is experiencing a problem, a symptom, a pain of some sort, and their goal is to alleviate it. This may be looking for informational resources to clearly understand and frame that and give it some type of name. So for instance, the inquiry at this point could be, how do I stay organized at work? They're just a mess. They're all over the board and they know they have enough self-awareness that I need help. And they're just like, how do I stay organized here? In this awareness stage, they're not really thinking about solutions or the providers. It's too early for that. Instead, they're looking to contextualize their problem. As a content marketer, you want to show up in the search engines in those results, even in these early stages. This is where you start to become, guide them into that consideration phase, and you establish your authority. You build that trust with that individual. So this is a great opportunity to answer those frequently most asked questions about your product or your service. Provide tips, provide tools, facts about 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever those facts might be. That's some really powerful content at this stage. And it should be, this is a bulk of where you should be putting a lot of your content. Next is your evaluation and consideration phase. In the consideration phase, the buyer will have basically clearly defined and given it a name. So what they're committed to searching for, what they're researching and understanding is, what are some of the options? How do I solve this? What are the methods I can use to solve this? And they're really trying to consider and evaluate some of those potential solutions, right? An example for this one is a technical solution, like an app worthwhile to organize my workday. So they're starting to now consider a technology. And in this phase, the prospect's not quite ready to buy, but they're looking for potential solutions. And your goal is to be considered during this phase, right? So this is a great opportunity. So videos are great for product demonstrations or to show personality, show the expertise of your staff, introduce some of your customer testimonials, your client stories, capture those on video or in written form. And that is so powerful. So next, let's talk about converting and that decision. Once they've progressed beyond consideration and they're now ready to buy, let's talk about how they've decided on the solution, right? They want to know, this is where I'm going to purchase. Your goal is to compile, their goal, I should say, is to compile a list of vendors that they're going to use. You want to be on that short list, right? This is where that question is this technology better than that technology? So it's, organizational tool number 1 or organizational tool number 3. Now they're ready to spend money. You want to be a part of that. You want to make sure that you're in that phase. So here again, Customer testimonials and stories, I think feeds your entire sales funnel, different stories at different times. These are really important. I would continue to go with that. Also, your email campaigns. If you have a prospect list, this is a time to start nurturing them. Highlight your team, highlight you and your expertise. Tell those testimonials. And this is a great opportunity now to really get to the nuts and bolts of the product or service. So those product sheets, that information about the services, those are going to be really important. Again, let's make sure that they're on page, but you can also share them out. And when I say on page, on your website, so you can share them out and produce it. I also put retention as part of the sales funnel. Depending on your business, this can be just as important as that sale. And sometimes this is where you need to spend a lot of your time, because capturing that new customer is far more expensive often than retaining them. But here's an opportunity to cross-sell them, to make sure they're aware of new updates, new services, give them organizational highlights if you won an award. And it's just a great opportunity to keep them engaged with you at this phase. All right. So now we need to create a plan. We need to develop that plan for creating and promoting content. I have some tools for you in a little bit, but let's talk about the nuts and bolts of that plan. So we're going to determine what content you're going to use. So let's say you've decided you're going to do the frequently asked questions. Are you going to do it in written form? Are you going to do video? Determine that format. Also assign it a responsible. Who's responsible? Is it just you? That's okay. Or do you have other team members or partners that can help to create the content? Do you need a writer? Do you need a designer? Or do you need a combination of both? That's going to help you with some of those assignments. And definitely make sure that you have a QA process. And actually, let me jump back up. I missed one that I think is really important, which is establish the deadlines. It seems odd to have that a part of this conversation, but content will get pushed off. It will continue to have so many priorities. If you can establish a deadline, it's going to help you prioritize it. It's going to give you a sense of urgency and make sure that you're consistent with it. And then, of course, have that QA process. And we're going to talk a little bit, when I say QA, quality assurance. So make sure that your content is well viewed. Look at it in a lot of different formats. Have someone else look at it. You want to double check how it looks in mobile, for instance. And next, we want to publish. So now we're getting to some of the more exciting and the fun parts of what we're going to be doing, right? So you want to make sure that you have everything in order. You want to add your appropriate images, link those keywords, link the brand name, the sources, the other relevant words. You want to make sure that if there's associated with the site. So for instance, with our autism content, we often are talking about the therapies, and we have content deep around ABA therapy, and we'll link to that. We'll link to stories. If you're able to link to other sources and other articles and content within your page on your website, that is a good thing. And obviously making sure you have that call to action at the bottom, linking to a contact form, or even just a read more to another article. And again, we already talked about this, QA in multiple search engines. You can see there's a couple things that I just keep mentioning over and over because they're important. Your SEO, your QA, making sure that everything works really, really well because it reflects on your brand, right? And now let's publish or promote, excuse me. Let's promote this content. So what are we going to do? We're going to share it on social media. Make sure as you put it on the right channels for your audience. You're going to use email marketing. It's a great opportunity to go, hey, I thought you might like this article that we just produced that might, be of interest to you. And particularly when it's a helpful resource, they're not going to be offended by that. You're not interrupting them if you're truly making that offer of help. Again, you need to utilize SEO. Offer to be a guest post. Or post on someone else's blog. It'll get you in front of other and new audiences when you do that. You could collaborate with influencers. There's smaller influencers, but make sure that you're giving, and I use the description, give them love. If you're going to ask them to share your content, make sure you do in return, and maybe make sure you've established a relationship before you just ask them, hey, will you share this? Right. And then send to your appropriate industries and media outlets. I'm leaving the paid promotions to the end. Send it to your industry outlets. All these publications, all these outlets are looking for content. Maybe you become a great source for some of their content. And I left paid content to the end because this is where there is a little bit of a cash outlay, but there's nothing better to promote than your expertise, your offer of help, your solutions. It's better than just putting money behind an ad. If you can promote and have a little bit, even if it's just on Facebook or on some social, it can be worthy. I have found that if I'm going to use Google Ads, using and promoting content is some of the best ways to invest your dollar. All right. One of the suggestions I have is to put together a calendar, a schedule. This looks really busy. So what you have in the back there is actually a real content calendar that we're currently using for my social service client. And as you can see, it's color coded and we're producing all sorts of content. Using an Excel spreadsheet has been my preference. I've been doing this for years, but it gives me everything I need. I can see the topic, I can see the date, I can see who's responsible for it, what we're going to do with it, what the blog is, and where it is in the cycle. I strongly suggest that you prepare a content schedule. But if you're not doing quite as much as that, your everyday calendar works great. So that's the other one that you're seeing where they just put a little bit of color coding. You have, infographic, you have a different color for a video, and they're putting their content by day, what they're producing and what they're publishing. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. One of the tips that I always make is that if you can plan out some of your themes, your seasons, do it in advance. So if and I'm going to use another client of mine, it was a hospital, we know Breast Awareness Month. We know that February is Women's Heart Health Month. We know where all of these certain, where nationally they get some attention. So we would generate and make sure we had content. We plan that out a year in advance. We plan our holiday a year in advance. Going back to school, those don't change. So when you can do that in advance, when the time comes up and you're really busy, you're prepared. And some of that can be very much evergreen content that you can, make sure that you're reusing, populating. You don't have to do a one and done. Definitely make sure that you share your content throughout the year and the season when it makes sense and when it's really meaningful. Excuse me. So let's talk about some editing. You've heard me say QA a million times, right? Here's a couple tips for editing. The first and foremost, take a break. You gotta build in some time there to take a break. And I recommend 24 hours. I am so sorry for that. It's amazing, particularly if you're, a single and it's you're a one-man show. I used to have to do this in my previous business. You let it sit 24 hours and the things you can see after 24 hours are just amazing. So give it a break, read it aloud. Again, you're gonna read and catch things because when you're editing your own content can be hard. Check for grammar and spelling errors, and I have some tips on that. We have some free grammar tools for you. Eliminate unnecessary words. Online users do not read like we read in paper. We scan. That's why titles, subtitles, bullets, lists are super important. when you're writing your content. And anytime you can remove unnecessary words, you want to do that. Simplify those complex sentences. Again, they're scanning, they're going fast. So the easier you can make it for that user to get through the content, the better. Check for accuracy and ask for feedback. If you don't, friends, family, ask them if they'll take a look at it. And then again, proofread and take your time while you're doing it. So we need to measure. In marketing, we don't do anything unless we are measuring, right? So what you're seeing here is, some Google Analytics, some tools around social, and you want to see that your website is gaining traction. So if you're building awareness with your content, you're going to see that tick up in your monthly content, right? Or in your monthly traffic. That's what you want to see. You can track your blog views. In your blogs, if there's some of them that are going to just serve you for a very, very long time. One of my clients, it was a college, and we had a cybersecurity program, and there was a post that one of our professors wrote around scams and Facebook. 3 years later, it was our top blog, 3 years after it was published, and it continued to be just really, really powerful. Now, I wanted to do a whole series around scams because it was so powerful, but to get a professor to continue to give you that kind of time in that writing, we weren't able to keep it up. And then, so keep that in mind. When you see something that really hits home with your audience, try to provide them more. Engagement metrics. So that's your social media. Are they liking it? Are they sharing it? Your lead gen. Are you improving? Are you getting more calls? Are you getting more contact forms? And of course, the number one measurement are sales. That takes a little bit more time. So basically, I want to, let me go back there, share with you that, let's break it down. Let's make it really simple. You create valuable content, you share that content. People search online for information, solutions that your business, your product, and your service. People find and enjoy your content. Your brand awareness improves. You build trust with your target audience. And then eventually you have leads, conversions, and sales. 83% of marketers say that content marketing is an effective strategy for their demand gen, for their lead gen. It is something that everybody is using today. And it's something that I strongly suggest as small business that you also put into practice if you want to advance your business. And with that, I am open to questions if you have them.
Okay, let's move to Q&A. We have one question currently. If you have a question, please go ahead and type it in your Q&A. And you have Patty right here ready to answer. Patty, can you see that for that question? Do we need
Q&A? Yep.
all this content?
Do you need to include all of this content or just a few? No, you
Yep.
do not need to use all of this content. For instance, let's go back to our hairstylist. She only used video and she only did one thing, and that was skits around rude customers. So you could do a wide variety or you could zero in. And I would tell you sometimes that focused effort is the most successful, particularly as a small business. You're not going to have time. Now, when, that's what we did for our customers. So it's completely different. But when we couldn't do it, it was like the baker had no bread. And, as our own company, we weren't good at that either. So yeah, I would just pick particularly if you have limited time and resources, think through what makes the most sense for your audience and stay there. If it's easier to write. If it's easier to do video. And around one topic is great as well.
Any other questions? Anyone?
I think you've got a few more there.
Okay, we do.
So some businesses are paying content creators with larger followings to drive sales to restaurant business. How do you choose a creator to determine costs? That is a great question. If you're a restaurant, I'm going to assume that you may be a restaurant. I would really evaluate that person. One, you don't want to have conflicts of interest. So look at that. If you are, have someone, they have to be talented. I'd look at their actual content. Do you want to do something funny? Do you want to do something more, if you're foodies and you really, and I'm a foodie, so I would love to meet you someday because I love our restaurants and those serving in that industry. But do you want to elevate, that perspective of your food and talking about the more sophisticated side of creating, or is it fun? And then, you're going to have to get quotes because you're right. Determining that cost for a creator, they are all over the board, and you're going to have to just maybe do a couple quotes, make sure there's chemistry between you and that creator and that it's worthy. That's a tough one because there's a wide range of content creators out there, and it is a tough one to figure out. So get quite a few quotes, meet with them, have them write something or produce something for you as a part of the interview process, and then go from there. Yes, it is okay to post the same content on social media platforms. I do offer this caution. You might want to wish one of your team members happy birthday or anniversary. That's maybe a little bit more appropriate, but be careful at times around like LinkedIn. You'll see some people kind of concerned about LinkedIn becoming a Facebook. So do think through it and make sure that it makes sense. But absolutely, a lot of my clients, we put content on all the different channels, and it's the same because they're different audiences for sure. And if they say it twice, that's just one more impression. Pick on what I need to reach visitors coming here for vacation. Yes. Any suggestions how to reach them? Okay, so you have some big competition, right? And so we need to look at your keyword research. If you're a small business, what kind of business that is and how those visitors are going to be searching for your services. Let's look at that, and then you could create the content around those keywords of how they're finding your, whatever your competitor and whatever service you have. So it's hard not knowing what that business is to answer that more completely and without doing some of that research. But that's what you're going to really want to do, is get in there, see how. This is a perfect example. I think it's Joe to put in there the most frequently asked questions around this, and see what comes up, whatever your business is. Would you advertise starting a blog, for example, to help you define? That's a tough question. If your business is a blog, that's what I'm not sure. Would you start starting a blog, for example, to help you further define it? It could. But you really should have, if you're starting a blog, you should already have that audience identified. You should already kind of know where your niche is. And really, that's going to take some research. That's a really, I'd love to talk further with you as well, because to find out if the blog is the business or if you're using the blog to find the niche within that business, because there's couple different ways you can go about it, and doing as much research as you can around that audience and what they're looking for. I will even say ChatGPT can give you some options. Go to Google and search to kind of really define what you're looking for.
Let's allow Cheryl to talk, and maybe she could further describe what she's talking about.
That would be great.
Okay, Cheryl, I've just allowed you to talk, so.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes,
can.
perfect.
Okay, yeah, it's, I'm in the, for example, in the health services, looking to, establish a personalized, health education business, health education coaching business, looking at a middle-aged to, senior group. And, I know that there's, people have a number of problems, health solutions, and I'm just, in terms of gathering the information about what's the most prevalent problem that they would like my, help with, that's, I was wondering if a blog would work to reach out sort of in general,
Yeah.
to find out what's bothering them the most, but as a communication process to, help me focus.
Yeah. It would over time, but it's a huge investment in time to try to establish that. And let me just be really honest with that, because content does take time. Immediately, as you were talking, Cheryl, the first thing I thought of is a poll on LinkedIn
Oh,
could help you answer those questions. Again, Google, what are the most prevalent health concerns, or are you saying health concerns, or what health coaches are trying to solve or, work with?
I'm looking at what the client needs in terms of, what's bothering them most, what keeps them up at night,
Yeah.
related to their health, that that I would,
Yeah.
of course, be within my realm to be able to help them with.
Yeah. I would use Google to, without doing a paid service to do a very, complicated research. I
Mhm.
think a LinkedIn poll, I think that Googling and seeing what the most prevalent questions are around health concerns, and then start testing those. Even if you
Okay.
have prospects or things like that, start testing some of those that come up on Google.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a tough one. Good, that's good.
I think there's one more.
Yep.
Should you still
Once
pay? Should you still pay to get top SEO listings for keywords related to your business name or products? How many keywords should you purchase?
So that is the art and science. Paid and organic do work together, but they also work very independently. I think both are worthy. You can't just do paid and not do organic, and you can't just do organic and not do paid, particularly with the new Google algorithms, because they've made it so difficult. If you've noticed, and this goes back several years, they've really limited the number of organic spots within Google. And so if you get with the right provider for Google AdWords, they can get you in a different place and promote you in different places. So it's a mix, and you want to use it intelligently. I will tell you, as a small business, most of your organic rankings are through your own company name, and that can be frustrating, because you don't want to pay. Like let me go to my human service organization. They worked with a Google consultant, did pay Google ads, paid for it. And the number one keyword that they were using were Judson Center, the name of the company or organization. And they would then pay but would get put on a landing page that may not have been relevant to what that person was searching for, because there were so many different services. You don't want to do that. You want to use your keywords to attract new customers versus those who already know your brand when you're looking for your Google ads. But that also means you need to keep optimizing your content for your brand. It is a complicated approach. It can be very complicated. And you have to watch what works and what doesn't and optimize accordingly. So it's a tough answer to give you beyond just you need to do both, but be careful with using your brand. You don't want to be paying for your own brand name on Google, if that makes sense. How should a landscape company go about doing their this? Oh, you do have a ton of competition. So as someone who just went through this process, I would say what's really important for you is demonstrating your work. showing your work. And I will tell you, as someone who's native to Michigan and new to Florida, I think you guys have done a great job with testimonials. It's almost every one of my partners and individuals that we've hired have asked for testimonials on Google. You want to make sure that you're very intentional. Those testimonials were so important for me. Those reviews, those Google reviews were so important. So I would definitely make sure that maybe your content strategy is around that customer testimonial, around those reviews, and that you're sharing those reviews on your social, you're sharing them, and they live on your website as well, because people are really going to look at that, and showing the, pictures, the images to go along even with some of those reviews or testimonials will be powerful for you. Posted on your own website are helpful, yes, or does the fact that you can edit and manipulate? So yes and no. You definitely want to use the Google and the other opportunities for reviews, but having them also on your website is not a bad option with stories. But that's where it gets a little tricky. Sometimes you can't share the name, but you can put, Patty S. You want to make somehow legitimate, or if you can take images or, show the picture of the individual, that makes it a lot more legit, and that people will trust it more. Or just even from your website, you link out to your Google reviews. So you want to make sure that if someone's on your site, they can get to them one way or another, but then also telling those stories, because you're going to be able to tell a deeper story around a customer success or a testimonial than you'll ever get on a review. So those customer stories on your site, particularly if you can share their image and they've agreed to that, and there's a whole process around that, you do need to get them to sign off and approve that. That can be hugely powerful, because you can tell a lot more about your product, your service, when you can write the story yourself, or they write it.
And in
One
writing,
more. I know we're just about out of time,
Oh.
but this is chat. How often should you add content to your site?
Regularly. That's a really inconsistent answer. It's a very wide answer. If you can add content, if it's a small business, if you could add something even monthly, that's going to help you. If you can do it weekly, that's even better.
All right. Well, thank you, Patty, so much for your time. I know our participants enjoyed it. Got some great questions out of it. So just wanted to thank everybody for joining today. You will get a survey. We would appreciate it if you would complete that, so we can keep improving these. Maybe there's other topics that we haven't covered that you want to hear. And also, we always appreciate, we shoot for 9 and 10s being the best ratings. That's our goal in our Minnesota chapter. So once again, thanks for joining. And the website is score.org/Minnesota. Thanks, everyone.